love, you're my turtle dove, but no money, no love.
Welcome back to the Now Morning Show. We're continuing our conversation and show this morning, speaking to the Chief Executive Officer of the TTIFC as they celebrate their 3rd anniversary under the new mandate. John Outridge is in studio with us. Good morning, John.
Hi, morning. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show. How are you doing this morning?
Good. Yeah, very well.
Wonderful. Thanks for taking the time out. Let's get straight into the conversation. What would you say specifically this 3-year mandate signifies?
So this 3-year mandate signifies basically for the TTIFC because we started off as an investment promotion agency, attracting business process offshoring companies. And back in April 15, today, well, this date in 2021, the company mandate was realigned to focus really on 3 things: financial inclusion, digitizing payments within government, and enabling Trinidad to be a fintech sector.
Wonderful. Can you share some of the key milestones and achievements that you've seen over this period?
Sure, yeah. And a lot of things to be grateful for, particularly within these 3 years, So one of the more recent things that we would have sort of accomplished is recently concluding our National Financial Inclusion Survey. What does that really mean for the people of Trinidad and Tobago is what we're trying to do at the TTIFC is really trying to promote the reduction in the use of cash, but more importantly, how do we get people into the formal economy, being able to open a bank account simply, being able to borrow money, being able to access digital payments, So that financial inclusion study really helped us understand what are the main barriers and challenges that we are focusing now in terms of developing a plan or a strategy to really help reduce those issues. In terms of the government side, we did do a lot of work when it comes to that. So like the Ministry of Trade, saying electronic window, now you can pay for all services on that, and that really is helping to reduce the ease of doing business. Today, we have a couple services that are launching to the market. So we're actually going into pilot with the Ministry of Works Licensing Division in Caroni for self-service payment kiosks. So no longer you have to wait in line to get a cashier. You can actually go to a kiosk and make payments. The Immigration Division, we work with them to allow for the online purchases for visas coming into Trinidad and Tobago. So particularly we have cricket coming up, so that should be a helpful addition, as well as the Environmental Management Authority. And about 2 years ago, we even worked with the HCC to basically digitize their sort of more ways to pay. And then on the fintech side, about roughly July last year, we launched One Fintech Avenue, which is an open ecosystem. It's located at our office. And since then, we have been doing a number of workshops and events with the local fintech sector and international partners, such as Visa and Huawei, to really sort of strengthen the local, I would say, startup community, particularly focused on fintech, to get them to a sense of maturity.
Wonderful. It's great to have this conversation as well, because as you mentioned, with some of these partnerships and what you've implemented, we now know who's behind it, because many times we see these things being announced, we're very excited, but we don't know the back end of how things work. So this is now we're on the 3rd-year anniversary. All this has happened in the space of 3 years.
Yeah.
That is absolutely phenomenal. Now let's talk about the TTIFC's contribution to fostering development of fintech in Trinidad and Tobago, the industry particularly.
Yeah, so I mean, when you look at Trinidad and Tobago now, let's kind of lump it in terms of the whole startup ecosystem, So every morning I would go to Starbucks in Movie Town and just kind of look around, and you realize you have people there sitting on their laptop and they have their own business, They basically kind of running their own shop, but the one thing that was missing, particularly in Trinidad and Tobago, but you see it all over the world, is the sense of community.
Yeah.
It's very, very fragmented. We have a lot of people who have a lot of ideas, but that network effect just wasn't there. So, we launched One Fintech Avenue, which is open to the public, Monday to Friday, located at our office. It basically gives you that sense of community, but we also have persons from the United Nations Capital Development Fund, experts who would be there as well to help support people with their ideas and so forth. We have been facilitating a number of what I will call startup nights. So we have partnered with entities such as Draper Startup House, Caribbean Dragons, facilitating different types of conversations about, people in the technology industry. What does it take? How do you raise investment? How do you raise capital? How do you go to market? We would have also launched last year in August, we did a Caribbean FinTech Sprint, and that was geared towards international and local. And we would have awarded about 500,000 US in grants for different projects and initiatives. And that was very well received. At about 53 different companies from across the globe, even locally here, you know. And one of the things you're starting to see, you know, when you think about fintech and you think about the impact it's having in Trinidad and Tobago, we look at entities like Food Drop. Food Drop is considered a fintech. You know, you would think that a lot of people now can't even live without Food Drop, you know, TT Ride Share, right? We have companies like OnQ, who's supporting right now in the NAMDEVCO farmers market. You could basically purchase all your produce online before you even go there and pay for it, you know. So this is where we talk about fintech, we're trying to basically enable these young entities to basically come and solve pain points and problems where you could sit down at home and interact with a product or service and purchase it and no longer have to, you know, basically go to visit a store, you know. So all of these different things and enabling cashless payments those are the big focus. So I would say in the past 3 years, I've definitely seen a lot more activity in the ecosystem. So we're trying to figure out how do we capitalize on it, how do we make the international connections, you know. Companies like Visa and MasterCard are becoming more prevalent here. You'll see over Carnival period, Visa sponsored half a Carnival, MasterCard sponsored the other half. So there's definitely interest in what we are doing in Trinidad and Tobago, you know, and we are sort of working with other entities like Google Pay and Apple to try to get those capabilities now in Trinidad and Tobago. So there's a lot of things that is coming, but the idea is that this will be beneficial to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, you know?
I mean, it definitely will be. Once you said Apple Pay and Google Pay, I mean, I know the interest is going to be peaked because what happens is many of us, we go abroad, we see the ease of business and we come back home and we're like, all right, it's time to be able to like scan our phone or watch
Correct.
and get these things done. So it's great to see that these things are on the table and the conversations are being had. Now, while the conversations are being had internationally, what about the conversation here on the ground when it comes to the average man on the street? Do you see them accepting this, let's just say, increase and buzz for fintech?
The interesting thing, you know, and this is why we did that financial inclusion study, because one of the biggest challenges we saw was there's a lot of apprehension when it comes to using digital payments, particularly in Trinidad and Tobago. And you would think that this is something we have been looking for, right? You know, some of the statistics we saw was actually a lot of people, the financial, what we call exclusion rate actually grew. More and more people actually leaving the sector, choosing to use cash, closing their accounts, right? For one reason or the other, whether it be in terms of fees, transparency, trust, you know, they just simply don't understand. You know, one of the things you would realize in Trinidad and Tobago, and in the financial sector has been doing a good job is, you know, where TNT is right now, we have more penetration, what you would call those tap-to-pay terminals than the US. So almost 50% of all terminals are enabled tap-to-pay. But if you think about it for persons who are not accustomed, it's very, very apprehensive for them. You know, over the weekend I went to the car wash and I was wanting to pay with my card, and the card didn't even need to touch the terminal, it just need to be close, and it went through. But for most people who do understand those technology, they think it's sorcery, you know. So we have a lot of a big job to do in terms of the public education and awareness, because the idea is that, you know, these processes are meant to basically, you know, increase customer transactions. You know, when you go to any of these little like Food Square or One Word Brookyard, you realize now almost all the vendors now walking with terminals versus the Savannah, because then I'm able to purchase more and I don't feel comfortable walking around with that amount of cash, you know. So we're trying to work in terms of increasing those awareness, and we will be going out, as I said, because of the third year now, to do larger, more public awareness engagements to kind of educate people how to use these technologies, what they're about, you know. And I think even from the financial services sector, I think we're getting more and more closer to what I would call sort of real-time payments, because I think that's the biggest challenge. If I send you money now and I leave, you know, you're probably going to be holding my hand waiting to say, I just want to make sure that money comes into my account, you know. So is that cash is instant, but I think that is where we're working to kind of create that same instant as well.
Definitely, and it's something we can all look forward to because, I mean, it makes life a lot easier. Let's be frank about it as well, and it saves time, which is so important. Now, you spoke about a little bit earlier the grants, those funds that were put into the sector, and also just the relationships that are being fostered and so much more. How much would you say this has influenced the growth of the sector, and what growth have we seen?
So I think the sector is what I would call still nascent. What I can see, and the thing is good, right? Because it's good that we are starting from this ground level, because you're able to observe small companies go into large companies, you know. You know, and I go back to the point where, you know, we have young founders like Z Labs, you know, that started 1 or 2 people. I know they grew into 4, 5, 6 people. We have other fintech companies we're seeing where they're bringing on more staff. They're actually going and attracting investment. We actually have one fintech company by the name of Sunshine, The founder, his name is Jarian Paul. He's actually right now in Europe actually raising funding. And, he's on track to, I would say, raise significant capital for what he's doing, because what he's sort of focusing on is, and these guys have a lot of good ideas into the solving problems, because, one of the big projects that we see a lot of companies, entities focusing in the sector is to how to facilitate cross-border payments. Okay. But not just talking about the Caribbean to the rest of the world, but even within the Caribbean. Because the same way I have to transfer money to somebody in Grenada, I might as well be able to transfer to the US, because it takes the same sort of mechanisms, So these guys are working on addressing those solutions, particularly for interregional trade, Because, I just look at Carnival, for example. I saw Jamaica Carnival just concluded, and it actually was recorded as being one of the more commercially successful carnivals. Yeah. But when you look at the participation, it's Trinities. So you have Trini designers, Trini music, Trini DJs, so again, being able to do those bookings and facilitations, all these things are use cases I'm going to see being addressed, Online purchase of costumes, all these different things, designers, services. So we have a lot of entities now sort of coming forth. I think the challenge before was really providing them with a structure that they could move along and really helping them educate in terms of understand how to build a business versus being a startup.
That's something that is so important. It's great to see the work that the TTIFC is doing and seeing the investment that's being poured in as well, but also knowing that you are taking a look at what's going on in the ground and seeing how you can work in tandem to ensure that we progress to the future. Now, speaking about the future, what are the objectives for the future of TTIFC in the next phase of the mandate?
Oh, yeah. Well, we have a lot of things that we want to get done, right? Because our entire goal is how to move Trinidad and Tobago towards what we call a cashless society, where, and if you think about it, what does that mean to anybody, the man in the street? When I land in Trinidad and Tobago, I shouldn't have to use cash. I should be able to pay for everything digitally. I should have a lot of local apps that, again, I can get from the airport via rideshare. I can order food from my hotel, right? In terms of also being able to settle those payments in real time, working with the financial sector. But then also, at the same time, what does it mean for what I would call the micro merchants, the guy selling doubles, person selling craft on Tobago and Tobago? How can they, for somebody, for example, go into our market, just wake up the next morning and say, hey, I want to sell clothes, I should be able to download the app and be able to collect payments online immediately. So that is what we're working for, to really make, I would say, this technology promote e-commerce payments sort of ubiquitous, so that there's no friction at the end of the day. So that's where we kind of focusing on. And I think based on all the initiatives that we have going on, I am seeing that happening in a very short time frame. It's just the acceptance we need to drive within the public. I think the demand is there. So we really just need to help the citizens trying to make it understand,
Definitely. And public awareness, of course, as you mentioned, is key. Can we just go back to, I think it was Fintech Avenue that you mentioned. Can you just briefly go over that with again?
Sure, yeah. One Fintech Avenue. So that's the local name we coined it, because if you think about it, when you come to Trinidad and Tobago, the first place as a foreigner people carry to is the Avenue. This is where you sort of connect. You kind of get the vibe of Trinidad and Tobago. So we designed One Fintech Avenue to do the same thing for the startup ecosystem. So anybody coming from the Caribbean or international, you want to understand what's going on in the startup ecosystem, you come to One Fintech Avenue. So it's really an on-site facility, and again, we have also phase 2 going on right now, where we are building out co-working spaces.
Oh, great.
So if you think about it, it's almost like a WeWork. But we also have an incubation center where you have all the facilities, great coffee as well,
Important.
So the idea is to get people to come in and connect and meet, It really sort of started off by me. My office is at Tower D next to the Hyatt, and every morning you walk in, you see people having meetings in the lobby of the Hyatt. No disrespect to the Hyatt, but that's not the best way to communicate with an investor or communicate with a client or a partner, So the facility itself is really designed for the startups to come and educate their customers and so forth. We have events happening almost on a weekly basis there. So we will be doing a lot more communication and awareness about that, because it is, as I said, open to the public, open to startups and founders, and we are building out that co-working facility as well.
This co-working facility, we need to have you back on the show to talk about that, especially as we continue the transition between hybrid work, but we do sometimes need that space to go to. Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us, John. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
John Outridge, the CEO of TTIFC, with us this morning, speaking about the 3rd anniversary under the new mandate and what's going to come. You need to make sure that you stay tuned, not just to the TTIFC, but to the Now Morning Show, because we'll be back after this with some sweet, sweet segments.
But no money, no love.